They looked around, broken and weak. All around them stood monuments to their failure, like statues frozen in time to commemorate their greatest moments of pathetic weakness. But they weren't statues. They were real moments, seemingly frozen in time as the teal-furred tabaxi looked on in horror. All around them, their party was dead. A voice spoke, seemingly full of empathy for the defeated tabaxi, but it wasn't real empathy. After all, how could the individual responsible for the evisceration of their entire party actually feel any kind of true sorrow? Slowly, they looked up as the monster smiled and revealed her sharp, pointed fangs that shone almost as bright as her ghastly pale skin in the moonlight. Such a waste, isn't it? I tried so hard to warn you all, tried to prevent this, but you insisted on getting in my way and now... Well... The vampire leaned down and gave the tabaxi an infuriatingly patronizing pout, causing her bottom fangs to jut out of her mouth just a little bit as she did so. Now your poor little friends are dead. If only you had listened, little kitty. Immediately, they hissed and took a swing with their mace, only to howl in pain as they felt their fractured ribs give way and cause the weapon to fall harmlessly to the floor. You're still trying so hard. It would be admirable if it wasn't so... sad. Tell me, where are they? Still gritting their teeth from the blinding pain in their side, the tabaxi managed to look up and spit out words between the blood pouring from their lips. Where is who? Well, your god, of course. You told me you had a god, didn't you? In fact, you told me you would destroy me with their holy light and bring me to justice for all those who had suffered under my tyrannical reign. So where are they? I can't imagine they would let their prized little puppet die without at least a reprimand. Now would they? While the tabaxi wished they could retort, it was more than the insufferable pain within their chest that prevented them from responding. She was right. Where was their god? Why had they not intervened? After all they had done for them, after everything they had sacrificed in the name of their cause, did they truly not care? Oh, poor little thing. You realize now, don't you? You realize they don't care. They never did. No, this couldn't be true. They had come this far with their faith. Their faith had to be enough. Silently, they gripped the holy symbol around their neck and began to pray fervently. Their god had to be there. They had to be listening. They could not, would not go down with absolutely no fight. Not if their god was truly watching. They continued to pray, continued to beg their deity that they had pledged their life to so that they could intervene as the vampires began to lift her hand, drawing her saber. Pity, I was hoping you had some fight. Nonetheless, take peace in knowing your death won't be in vain. After all, your fur pelt will make an excellent carpet in my foyer. With that, her blade plunged down, piercing into the tabaxi's side, and vanishing, as if it were never even there. What? The vampire began to mumble before immediately being interrupted by an ear-piercing shriek of their own making as the very moonlight broke way to make for a blinding radiance from the sky. Kalothe, devoted follower of Delius, goddess of light, you have done well to put your faith into your master. Now we shall reward your devotion. The vampire screamed as the holy symbol on the tabaxi's chest began to blaze with an unending light, channeling the power of their goddess through their infinite devotion. Out of nowhere, a gleaming creature of blazing white and beautiful angelic wings erupted from the symbol and struck down the villain in a single swing from their massive flaming sword. Today, their faith had won the battle. Okay. A little while back in my Why You Should Play Sorcerer video, I mentioned that I wasn't a huge fan of the Sorcerer. This is gonna be similar, but it's a little different. And here's why. The Cleric is, without a single doubt, my least favorite class. And if you get upset at me for that, keep this in mind. Yeah, I think it's okay to be upset with me. You probably have every right to. Because here's the deal, I just don't have any specific grounds that could be reasonably taken into account on why I don't like the class. Here's the deal. The mechanics for the Cleric, A+. I've listed in multiple videos why Clerics are the best and can be insanely good. Flavor-wise, oh yeah, they've got it. Channel Divinity and Divine Intervention nail the aspect of a holy warrior channeling a power larger than them. Heck, I even think it does a great job distinguishing its very similar flavor from that of the Warlock in order to create a very dynamic class. So the real reason I don't like them, I'll admit, it's strictly personal, and if you're someone who's seen a decent portion of my videos, it's even possible you've put the pieces together before I finish this thought. Fact of the matter is, I don't like Clerics because I was raised religious. Boom. That's it. That's the reason. Yeah, but aren't you the guy who constantly quotes the Paladin as his favorite class? Shut up, YouTube comments. You don't know me. But, yeah, I do. Paladin is my favorite. And that's interesting because it's usually seen as the more radical and zealous cousin of the cleric who takes skeet shooting just a little too far and ends up blasting neighbor Jimmy across the street by accident because he didn't say his Lord's Prayer this morning while looking at Jesus Senpai's beautiful full-body poster like an absolute heathen. Do I go to hell for implying that a good devout faith man should have a full-body Jesus poster? Whatever. Point is, yeah, Paladin is generally considered a way more intense cleric. But here's the thing. A Paladin gains power through their devotion to a cause, a statement of tenets, a strict code in which they believe to be right and true, and that's how I live my life. Quite honestly, I live my life under 3 simple tenets. Do something which matters, always work to make the world a better place around me, and choose to make myself happy while still following those other 2. Honestly, all 3 of those can fall under a simple phrase from the Bible even. Love others as you would love yourself. But clerics? Clerics gain power through blind faith to a greater creature, and that just doesn't sit well with me, especially thanks to my somewhat harmful religious background. And don't get me wrong, if you're religious, seriously, more power to you. 1000% I legit think it's awesome to put your life to a cause as long as it's not hurting someone else, and as long as it's working to the betterment of the world around you. The thing is, my experience with religion was a bit more unfortunate than that, and quickly it was ingrained within me a tendency to believe I was not worth attention unless I was sacrificing myself for others, and that's just very harmful and a very hard way to live life. And so you take all that into account, and the cleric, whose identity can become ingrained in the idea that they are only worthy of the power they need to adventure as long as they are blindly obeying their deity, or else they lose said power and can no longer travel alongside those who they consider their family, well, I hope it begins to become clear why the class kind of rubs me the wrong way. And do all clerics have to operate that way? Well, of course not, but enough do that I generally have a dislike of the class, not because of the mechanics, but because of, well, the flavor. Weird, right? Typically in my case, the mechanics are secondary and it's all about the flavors, so this has always been a weird spot for me. And look, I know I've spent a long time talking about this. To be honest, I'm literally on page 5 of my script right now. But the main point of these videos is for me to talk about why you should play a cleric, and that hinges on why I think you should play a cleric. So if I have these hangups, I kind of have to address them, and I am 1000% positive that I am not the only person with these hangups either. In fact, when looking online, this is the #1 reason I personally have seen on why people choose not to play the cleric. So, now that I've had fun info dumping my personal issues on you, why do I think you should play a cleric? Well, I want to discuss that. So let's talk about that. Hey, where's the intro? What do you mean we don't have the time? I didn't talk for that long. Oh, whatever, I'll figure it out. Okay, so yeah, that was a lot. But, as always, I got the context out of the way, so let's go in for the good stuff. Why should you play cleric? Well, the fact of the matter is, they're just a goddamned, see what I did there? Solid class. I mean, seriously, much like the druid, I just find them to be good at doing, well, whatever you need them to do. They've got spellcasting on lock, and, well, that's it. Which, like, I get it. I get that it seems like I'm bashing them, but I'm really not. Truth is, outside of spellcasting and a few admittedly pretty cool abilities, the cleric doesn't get hardly anything outside of their subclass. But that's kind of why they're an awesomely solid class. Let's start with their spellcasting though, because at the end of the day, spellcasting is a cleric's bread and butter. And their spellcasting feels so unique, and not because they have any kind of special casting mechanics like the sorcerer or the warlock, but because they have some of the most diverse and interesting spellcasting options in the game. Spiritual Weapon, Harm, Planar Ally, Divine Word, and Temple of the Gods, just to name a few. And those are all cleric exclusive spells, and all of them I think are bursting with amazing mechanics and flavor. Seriously, if you don't know what they are, look them up. The cleric spell list alone is a fantastic reason to play this class. Then you get to the other core mechanics of the subclass, those being Channel Divinity and Divine Intervention, and look, I'm not going to detail those out for you. If you don't know what they are, I've left them on screen for you to read, and I'll leave them here for a little bit so you can get familiar. But they're amazing, and they really give a ton of flavor to the class. And I've already detailed why I'm not a huge fan, personally, of the fantasy of the cleric. However, that being said, these two abilities really do nail down the fantasy of calling upon a higher power and channeling their radiant, or malevolent if you're into that kind of thing, brilliance. It is incredible how using a channel divinity, or especially a successful divine intervention, can make you feel like you're opening the gates of heaven, or hell, in order to unleash the righteous wrath of the gods upon your unlucky foes. And then, there's the subclasses. And you'll notice I've avoided talking about them up to this point for the most part, and that's for two reasons. One, there are a lot. A ton. Cleric is one of the top contenders for most official subclasses in the entire game. And two, it's because the subclasses, much like the druid, are really what define the cleric class. Seriously, based on your subclass, you get a new channel divinity option. You get specific new abilities flavored to show your channeling of the deity that you serve. And you also get a specific new ability which either buffs your melee or spell attacks based on the kind of god that you serve. Ultimately, they nail down the flavor of your class by truly exemplifying the deity that you serve. Oh, and a ton of them also give additional really good proficiencies. I legitimately can't go over all the subclasses and do them justice, and I really can only tell you guys to go look at them yourself because they are bursting with flavor and can be used in an awesome wide variety of builds. But this is usually the part of the video where I switch gears and begin to explain why I love the flavor of the class. However, I think I've made it clear why I honestly think they do an awesome job with the flavor, but of also explaining why I don't like the flavor. I just have a hard time with it. So where do I go from here? How do I convince you to play cleric why you should play a cleric when I myself don't want to play one? Well, haha, here's the plot twist of the episode you never saw coming. I have played 3 clerics before. Not 1, not 2, but 3. And why have I done that despite having such a massive aversion to the class? Well, the flavor just keeps calling to me. Yeah, sure, I have some issues with it due to personal stuff. But even despite that, the class just has a way of really appealing to, well, anyone. The idea that these gods are real, that everyone in the world knows they're real, that they just exist in a far-off plane of existence and you could tap into that power if you simply believe in their tenets enough is evocative. Because the fact of the matter is, the deal is, the gods are real in D&D. There is no denying that. And even beyond that, there are options. Gods to choose from, to determine the tenets of which you truly believe in, and to trust in that. And somehow, despite my strong aversion, which is really very real, that still works for me. The cleric is about devotion, understanding, taking the power given to you not for your own gain, but because you could be trusted with it. Because you'll do what's right, and you put a reason to be held accountable. To be strong, stoic, sturdy in a matter that Paladin could not. And that's whether you're choosing to serve an evil deity or not, because at the end of the day, the deity trusts you to use the powers for what you believe in, what they believe in. To stand strong and powerful and to resist the temptation of the world by standing by the side of a deity who believes in the same cause as you do. So yeah, in some ways, it is a lot like Paladin. But in some ways, it's a Paladin who leans away from the fanaticism and instead leans into stoicism. They lean into the determination to do better and to be a sturdy force in a crazy, crazy world. And in honesty, at the end of the day, despite my issues with it, that's something I can't help but love the idea of. So yeah, ignore the start of this video. Go out and play an awesome cleric, you beautiful bastards. Go make the world your own. Don't forget to have a great day and never forget to play your role. Thank you. Come again.